You walk past your neighbor's garden every single morning, and every single year, without fail, they've got flowers blooming, herbs spilling over the edges, vegetables popping up in places they didn't even plant them. And you're thinking, how? How is this person doing all of this without breaking a sweat? You watch them out there sometimes, just wandering around with a cup of coffee, doing absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, you're out here on your knees, buying new seeds every spring, replanting everything from scratch, spending money you didn't budget for, spending time you definitely don't have. And for what? Half of it dies anyway. Here's what your neighbor knows that you don't. There is a category of plants, 18 of them, that once you put them in the ground, you may never have to plant them again. Ever. They drop their own seeds. They come back on their own. They fill in the gaps. They spread into corners you forgot about. They literally plant themselves while you're sleeping. And some of them will feed your family, attract pollinators that supercharge your whole garden, and repel pests you've been losing sleep over, all without you doing a single thing. I almost gave up gardening 3 years ago. Too much work, too much money, too much heartbreak, every time something didn't survive the winter. Then I found these plants, and I promise you, after this video, your entire approach to gardening is going to shift. Before we get into this list, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now. Every week on Rooted Harvest, we give you the real, no-fluff strategies that help you grow more and work less. Now, let's go get into it. So what exactly is a self-seeding plant? Think about how plants work in nature. Nobody is out there in the wild planting seeds every spring. Plants drop their seeds at the end of the season. Those seeds fall into the soil, winter happens, and then spring comes, and new plants push up from the ground like magic. That's the whole beautiful system. Most of us completely interrupt that cycle in our own gardens. We deadhead everything. We clean up every last seed pod in the fall. We rake the beds completely bare, and then we wonder why nothing comes back. Self-seeding plants are the ones that, if you just leave them alone, will do exactly what nature intended. The seeds fall, the soil takes care of them, and you get free plants the following year. Some people call them volunteers, and that word is perfect because they show up without being asked. Number 1. Black-eyed Susan. If there is one plant that sums up the American garden, this is it. Black-eyed Susan, Rudbeckia hirta, is the state flower of Maryland. It grows wild in prairies and roadsides from the Midwest all the way to the East Coast, and once it decides it likes your garden, it is never leaving. This thing spreads 2 ways, through seeds and through underground rhizomes. That means while you're not looking, it is quietly colonizing new ground beneath the soil. You don't need to do anything. Bees carry the seeds. Birds eat from the seed heads and drop them somewhere new. The wind does the rest. It blooms from June all the way through September. Those golden yellow petals with the dark center are impossible to miss, and it handles drought like an absolute champion. Zone 3 all the way through Zone 9. That covers most of the continental United States. You plant this once, and you could have it in your garden for the rest of your life. Number 2. Purple coneflower, also known as Echinacea. And yes, this is the same plant that people have been brewing into teas and supplements for immune support for over 200 years. But here's what most gardening channels won't tell you. The real magic of Echinacea in the garden isn't just the flowers. It's what happens when you leave the seed heads standing through fall and winter. Goldfinches land on those dried seed heads and pick out the seeds one by one, and as they do, they drop seeds. All across your garden, the birds are literally planting it for you. This plant spreads casually, never aggressively, never invasively. It just quietly multiplies. Zones 3 through 9, full to partial sun, and it attracts every pollinator you could possibly want. This one earns its place on every list every time. Number 3, California poppy. This is the one that surprises people every single time. California poppy, Eschscholzia californica, technically grows as a short-lived perennial in warmer climates, but it self-seeds so prolifically across zones 6 through 10 that it behaves like a permanent resident. You plant a patch of these once, and in 2 or 3 years, that patch will have tripled. The colors are outrageous: orange, red, yellow, cream, and they bloom from as early as March. They thrive in poor, dry soil. Actually, they prefer it. The worse your soil is, the happier they are. And when the seed pods dry out at the end of the season, they don't just drop seeds, they explode. That pod literally bursts open and flings seeds several feet in every direction. Let that sink in. This plant is launching its own seeds across your yard for you. Hold on. I need to stop here for a second, because I just realized something. Of all the plants on this list, the next 5 are the ones that are going to spark the most debate in the comments. And I want to know your take before we keep going. Drop a comment right now. Are you a flowers-only gardener? Or do you mix edibles in with your ornamentals? Because what's coming next is going to challenge how you think about your garden beds entirely. Number 4. Larkspur. This one sounds complicated, but it is secretly one of the easiest self-seeders you will ever grow. Larkspur, consolida, needs its seeds cold stratified before they'll germinate. That sounds like a problem until you realize that winter does that job for you, automatically. You scatter the seeds in fall, winter comes, the cold breaks down the seed coat, and in spring they push up on their own. Tall spires of blue, pink, and white flowers that look like they belong in a formal English garden, but they grow themselves like weeds in the best possible way. Zones 2 through 11. That's essentially every gardening zone in America. The only thing you need to give Larkspur is decent drainage and a sunny spot. That's it. After that, nature handles the rest year after year. Number 5. Cosmos. Cosmos is the plant that makes non-gardeners look like master gardeners. You scatter the seeds once, walk away, and then several weeks later your garden looks like a professional cut flower farm. These things self-seed abundantly. The seeds are light, they catch the wind, they travel. And pollinators are absolutely obsessed with the cosmos. Bees, butterflies, hummingbird moths, all of them. What people don't know is that the cosmos actually does worse, with too much attention. Rich soil produces too much leafy growth and fewer flowers. Poor dry soil is where the cosmos absolutely thrives. Zones 3 through 10. And if you leave the seed heads standing at the end of the season, next year's garden is already planted. Number 6. Verbena. Verbena bonariensis is what happens when a plant decides it wants to be dramatic. Tall, wiry stems that can hit 5 or 6 feet, topped with clusters of tiny purple flowers that look like fireworks frozen in time. Monarch butterflies and swallowtails cannot resist this plant. In Zone 7 and warmer, it behaves as a true perennial. In cooler zones, it self-seeds so freely that it comes back every single year anyway. It has essentially naturalized itself across large portions of the United States at this point. There are gardens where it hasn't been intentionally planted in a decade, and it's still there. Still blooming, still feeding every butterfly in the neighborhood. By the way, I'm curious, which plant on this list are you most excited about? We're not even halfway through, and I've already seen gardeners in our community get into full debates over which of these is the most beginner-friendly. Comment below and tell me. And if you share this video with one person in your life who keeps complaining that gardening is too much work, you might just change their whole summer. Number 7. Columbine. Aquilegia is one of the most visually stunning self-seeders on this entire list. And it has a secret that most people don't know. When Columbine self-seeds, it naturally hybridizes. What does that mean? It means that the plant that comes up next spring from self-dropped seeds might be a totally different color combination than the parent plant. You planted purple. Next year you get pink and white. The year after that, something in between. Your garden literally surprises you every single spring with something brand new. Hummingbirds are obsessed with columbines. The tubular shape of the flowers was basically made for their beaks. Zones 3 through 9, partial shade tolerant, and one of the most effortless spreaders you will ever grow. Number 8. Forget-me-not. Here's the plant for every shady corner of your yard that you've given up on. Most self-seeders want full sun. Forget-me-not is different. It thrives in damp, shady conditions, the spots under trees, along fence lines, anywhere that stays a little cool and moist. It carpets the ground in blue, which is a color that is genuinely rare in the garden world. And it self-seeds so reliably that once you have it, it just never leaves. Zones 3 through 9. Plant it once in a shady spot, and that corner of your yard becomes a sea of blue every spring without you lifting a finger. Number 9. Bachelor's Button. Bachelor's Button, Senstoria montana, has a double-spreading strategy that makes it uniquely powerful as a self-seeder. It spreads through seeds and through rhizomes underground. That means it moves horizontally beneath the soil, while simultaneously broadcasting seeds above ground. If you plant 1 or 2 of these, within a few seasons you will have a colony. The electric blue of the flowers is unlike almost anything else in the garden, and it blooms prolifically as a cut flower too. So not only is your garden filling itself in for free, you're also getting free flowers for your home. Zones 3 through 9. Now we move into edible self-seeders, and this is where things get really interesting, because these next four plants blur the line between the ornamental garden and the food garden completely. And once you see what they can do, you're never going to keep those two worlds separate again. Number 10, nasturtium. This is the one that changes everything for people who think ornamental and edible gardens are two completely separate things. The entire nasturtium plant is edible, every single part. The flowers have a peppery, slightly sweet flavor and make stunning garnishes for salads and drinks. The leaves add a spicy kick to sandwiches. And the seed pods, this is the part people don't know. The seed pods can be pickled exactly like capers. They taste similar, they look similar, and capers at the grocery store are expensive. Your garden is making them for free. But here's the bonus that takes nasturtium from great to incredible. Nasturtiums act as a trap crop. Aphids are absolutely drawn to them, which means they pile onto the nasturtium instead of onto your vegetables. You're not just getting free food, you're getting free pest control. Thrives in every zone, prefers poor soil, self-seeds abundantly. This plant is doing multiple jobs in your garden without being asked. Number 11, dill. One mature dill plant at the end of the season produces hundreds upon hundreds of seeds. Some estimates put a single plant at over 1,000 seeds dropped per season, which means if you let your dill go to seed, which most people are desperately trying to prevent, you have next year's herb garden already covered. But there's another layer here that's even more exciting. Dill at full flower attracts parasitic wasps. Now before you panic, these are the good kind. These tiny wasps prey on aphids, caterpillars, and other garden pests. So your dill, left to do what it naturally wants to do, becomes a living pest management system. Zones 2 through 11. The herb you've been fighting against is actually trying to help you. Number 12, cilantro. Most gardeners have a complicated relationship with cilantro because it bolts, meaning it shoots up a flower stalk and goes to seed, faster than almost any other herb. And for years, people have been treating that bolting as a failure. Here's the truth, bolting is the whole point. When cilantro bolts, the seeds that form the flower head are coriander, a completely separate spice that you'd normally have to buy at the store. And after those seeds mature and drop, you get a new cilantro crop the following season, automatically. Let it bolt. Let it seed. Let it do exactly what it's trying to do. Zones 2 through 11. Your so-called failure has been your greatest gardening asset all along. Number 13. Borage. Borage might be the most underrated plant on this entire list. It produces small, star-shaped flowers in the most electric shade of blue you've ever seen on a food plant. Those flowers are edible. They taste faintly of cucumber. They make stunning additions to salads and cocktails. And they freeze beautifully into ice cubes for entertaining. But the reason that every serious gardener I know grows borage is because of what it does for the rest of the garden. Bees are so powerfully attracted to borage that planting it near your vegetable beds measurably increases pollination across every other plant nearby. It self-seeds so aggressively that once you have borage, you will always have borage. Zones 2 through 11. Some people say it's almost too easy to grow. That's exactly the kind of problem we want. All right, we are almost at the finish line. I have to ask, are you starting to see your garden differently yet? Because when I first learned about these plants, I felt genuinely frustrated that nobody had told me sooner. Years of buying seed packets, years of replanting everything from scratch. If this is shifting something for you, share it. Send this video to a gardener you know. And make sure you're subscribed, because the next video is going to blow this one out of the water. Number 14, Foxglove. Foxglove is a biennial, meaning it grows foliage in its first year and blooms in its second year. Most people hear that and think it sounds like a lot of waiting. But here's the thing about foxglove. Because it self-seeds so freely, there is always a first-year plant and a second plant growing at the same time in your garden, which means you always have blooms, every single year. The tall, dramatic spires covered in spotted tubular flowers are one of the most iconic images in cottage garden design. And the secret is simple. Don't deadhead everything. Leave some spent flower spikes standing, and the seeds will rain down into the soil below. Zones 4 through 9. 1 packet of seeds, a lifetime of Foxglove. Number 15, lupine. Here's a plant that earns its place on this list twice. First, because it self-seeds reliably and produces some of the most spectacular flower spires in the garden. Tall columns of blue, purple, pink, and white that look like something from a fairy tale. Second, because lupine is a nitrogen-fixing plant, meaning its roots have a relationship with soil bacteria that pulls nitrogen directly from the air and deposits it into the soil. Every year, lupine grows in your garden. It is making your soil more fertile for everything around it. You are getting free flowers and free fertilizer at the same time. Zones 4 through 8, a short-lived perennial that keeps giving precisely because you let it reseed. Number 16, sweet alyssum. Sweet alyssum is the gap filler every garden needs. Low-growing, sprawling, fragrant. It smells genuinely like honey, and it blooms almost continuously from late spring through fall in most zones, and nearly year-round in warmer climates. It tucks itself into every crack, every space between stepping stones, every bare patch of soil, and turns it into something beautiful. The self-seeding is so reliable that in many zones it acts like a true perennial. Zones 5 through 11. And because it stays so low to the ground, it doesn't compete with taller plants. It just fills in the spaces they leave behind and makes your whole garden look more intentional, more designed, more like something you worked very hard on. You didn't, but nobody needs to know that. Number 17, common poppy. The common red poppy, Papaver, is one of the most prolific self-seeders in the known gardening world. And that is not an exaggeration. A single poppy plant can produce a seed capsule containing anywhere from 100 to several hundred seeds. Let that plant stand through the end of the season. Let the pod dry and crack open, and those seeds scatter across your garden like a sprinkler system. In zones 3 through 9, you plant poppies once and you're done. The following spring, you'll see tiny feathery seedlings emerging all over your beds. Learn to recognize them, because the temptation will be to pull them as weeds. These are not weeds. These are next year's garden doing its job early. Number 18, ornamental allium. We close this list with a plant that is both dramatic and quietly practical. Alliums, which include ornamental varieties and edible ones like chives and garlic chives, produce those instantly recognizable ball or drumstick-shaped flower heads in purple, white, and blue. They are architectural. They are bold. They look absolutely stunning standing up through the middle of a mixed border, and they spread by seed without ever becoming aggressive or invasive. Just leave the seed heads standing after the flowers fade and let the seeds drop naturally. Hardy all the way to zone 3, making this one of the coldest tolerant self-seeders on this entire list. And if you plant the edible varieties, chives, garlic chives, you are getting free herbs on repeat, forever, from a single purchase. Now before I let you go, here are the 5 rules that make all of this actually work. Because knowing the plants is only half of it. If you skip these rules, your self-seeders won't come back, and you'll be back to buying seed packets every spring just like before. Rule 1. Always use heirloom or open-pollinated seeds, not F1 hybrids. Hybrid seeds are engineered for a single generation of performance. The offspring don't grow true to the parent, which means if you plant hybrids and let them self-seed, you're gambling on what comes up next year. Open-pollinated and heirloom varieties produce offspring that look just like the parent plant. This is the single most important rule on this list, and almost nobody talks about it. Rule 2. Do not deadhead everything. Deadheading encourages more blooms, but if you take off every spent flower head, there are no seeds. Leave at least a third of your spent flowers standing at the end of the season. Let them develop seed pods. Let those pods dry. Let the seeds fall. That is the whole system. Rule 3. Leave the soil alone in spring. Most self-seeded seeds germinate just beneath the surface of the soil. If you go in with a trowel or a hoe in early spring before the seedlings emerge, you are destroying the next generation of plants before they ever have a chance. Give it time. Watch for the first true leaves to appear before you touch anything. Rule 4. Go easy on the mulch in reseeding areas. A thick layer of mulch can physically prevent small seedlings from pushing through. In areas where you want self-seeding to happen, use thinner organic material. Leaf litter works beautifully. Or leave patches of bare soil intentionally. Seeds need contact with soil to germinate. Rule 5. Trust the volunteers. When a self-seeded plant comes up 3 feet from where the parent was, it did that on purpose. That spot has better light, better drainage, better something. These plants are smarter about placement than we are. Don't move them unless you absolutely have to. Watch what happens when you let them stay. More often than not, they thrive in ways the parents never did. Here's the thing I really want you to take away from this video. Most of us were taught to garden like we were fighting against nature. Control every variable. Remove every weed before it breathes. Deadhead every spent flower before it drops a single seed. Rake everything clean before winter even hits. And that approach costs us money, costs us time, and costs us the natural abundance that our gardens are genuinely capable of producing when we get out of the way. Self-seeding gardening is not lazy gardening. It is working with nature instead of against it. It is letting biology do what biology has been perfecting for millions of years. And the moment you make that shift, the moment you look at a seed pod and think of free plants instead of time to clean this up, your whole garden changes. Everything changes. There you have it. 18 plants that will build you a garden that literally plants itself year after year for free. A garden that feeds you, protects itself from pests, feeds the pollinators, and gets more beautiful with every passing season, while you spend less money and less time than you ever have before. That is what gardening is supposed to feel like. Now I want to hear from you. Which plant on this list are you starting with? Drop it in the comments. And tell me, is there a self-seeder I missed? Because I am already building part 2 of this list based on your responses, and I want your input in it. If this video changed how you think about gardening, please share it with one person, one friend, one neighbor, one family member who is convinced they don't have a green thumb because maybe they just haven't found the right plants yet. Subscribe to Rooted Harvest if you haven't already. Every week, we are here giving you the strategies that actually work in real American gardens across every zone.